Thank you for joining me today. It's Brian Gubernick, and welcome to the No Days Off podcast, where we believe that every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. Just the other day, a couple days ago, a couple episodes ago, I interviewed an amazing guy named Charlie Engle, ultra athlete, ultra endurance athlete, guy who's overcome so much in life and has accomplished so much after being at one of the lowest points a human being could possibly be at. And he has an amazing story. If you have not listened to that episode from Monday, just a couple days ago, you're going to want to go back and listen to it because, as we do in many scenarios, when I do a long form interview like that, usually once a month or so, we'll do a deep dive for the days after I air that episode to talk about some specific topics that individual discussed, things that resonated with me that I thought deserved a deeper dive and would resonate with you. Well, today I want to take a look at something that Charlie had listed towards the end of the episode when I asked him the question that I love to ask people I'm interviewing, and the shortened version of that question is when I ask, hey, let's make believe all of your content disappears from this world and you're only left with 3 lessons that you can share. Just 3 things you want to live out there, live on, even after you're gone. One of the 3 truths or 3 lessons that Charlie shared was the following. Charlie said, optimism is true moral courage. Optimism is true moral courage. I found that one interesting because I was a little unclear as to what he meant, and then he explained and it made a lot more sense. But it did prompt me to want to go a little deeper into this topic. What I realized is that why optimism really isn't fluff. It's actually the most courageous stance I think a leader or a survivor can take. It's not some feeling necessarily. It's a stance. I want to talk about optimism a little bit here today. Not the Hallmark movie sort of optimism, not that naive kind of optimism, but the kind that Charlie referenced when he actually quoted Ernest Shackleton, right? And that's where this came from. Optimism is true moral courage. We think optimism is about personality. We think optimism is just this fleeting emotion that shows up now and again. But Charlie actually he reminded me that real optimism is actually a decision. It's a form of leadership. It's a test. When everything's going completely sideways, it's often the only thing that can keep you going is deciding to be optimistic. Charlie was not optimistic because he ran across the Sahara Desert. He was optimistic in order to run across the Sahara. There's a big difference there. He got punched in the face, literally and figuratively, on day 3 of running the Sahara. I don't think we went all that deep into the Sahara expedition during the interview, but I've watched his documentary. I've gone, I've looked at it and learned from it. There were sandstorms and dehydration, and his team dynamics were completely sideways, broken team at times. His body and the team started falling apart, and the expedition still had 108 days to go. Now, how do you hold belief under that sort of pressure? I think you've got to make optimism a practice, not a mood. I think optimism is the discipline of believing in a better future, even when reality begs you not to. It's the discipline of believing in a better future. Now, I'm not talking about false positivity. That's not what I'm talking about here. Charlie isn't really a positive vibes only type of guy. He's been in prison. He's relapsed. He's failed. And this is probably what struck me hardest when he was talking around this. After being in prison and relapsing and failing and having so much disarray and challenge in life, he still believes. And I think it's what makes his optimism so credible. It's forged optimism. It's not faked optimism. If you lead a team or you lead a family, you lead a business, you don't need those people don't need you to be cheerful per se. They need you to see a vision. They need you to hold firm to a steady vision when things start to look bleak. See, that's optimism. It's not happy. I think it's hopeful. There's a difference. And I think this optimism can be a weapon. If you know anything about Ernest Shackleton, and if you don't, go look him up. Story's absolutely amazing. Stranded in Antarctica for months, starvation, mutiny, death. I mean, it's a crazy, crazy story. But in spite of all that, he held the crew together by projecting a belief that they'd all make it out alive, even when they had no supplies and, frankly, no signs that they'd make it out alive. He kept them together by projecting this belief that they'd make it out alive. And in business, I think that's what you're doing when you keep hiring, even when the market maybe contracts, you invest in your health, even though your schedule is totally overloaded, or you keep showing up for your kids, even after failure. To me, that's not a delusion. That's actually what leadership entails. So I want you today to kind of think around this question. And I want you to just maybe jot down some notes or just hold it in your mind. The question is, where am I letting doubt silence my belief? Where am I letting doubt silence my belief? In my business, where do I need to project more optimism? At home, where does my family need to see belief instead of fear? In my habits, where am I letting short-term pain override long-term purpose? Again, the question to ask is, where am I letting doubt silence my belief? And then I gave you some follow-up thoughts in order to craft an answer. I want you all to remember, No Days Off Nation, to remember that being optimistic when things are easy isn't really courageous. That's not courage. I think holding belief when everything is stacked up against you, though, that's the kind of optimism that I believe changes lives. That's all I have for you today, the No Days Off podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. So let's get after it.